Hi, welcome everyone. You got Ben Herman and myself, Nick Augustine, here with Grace Technologies business development team. We just got back from Automation Fair earlier this month and wanted to share some information on the new innovations and some of the excitement that we saw at the show. So I'm going to hand it over to Ben, let him get started with where Grace Technologies is for some new innovations.
Yeah, so like Nick said, my name's Ben. I'm with the business development team here at Grace. So one of the things that we've become known for over the years is our first product, the Grace Port. So our Grace Ports are, just in case you don't know or are unfamiliar, are panel interface connectors. So they allow you to plug in from the outside the panel to access things like your PLC or basically whatever it is you're trying to connect to inside the panel. A couple of the key benefits there is typically plants, they're not very clean. There's a lot of dust, there's a lot of dirt or whatever else that might be in there. So keeping the environment out of your panel or enclosure is crucial because those things are not cheap and you don't want a lot of dust building up in there, as well as keeping out your maintenance guys as well, just because there can be a safety issue with people going inside the panel. So just keeping your employees as safe as possible and keeping the environment out of the panel. So one of the new things that we created, so we've been making Grace Ports for 30 years.
Yeah, we're still innovating after 30 years. But what's new? What are people excited about because of this?
Yeah, so one thing we've been hearing about, I think Nick and I have had plenty of conversations with end users with our Grace Ports of saying, hey, these things are great, but my guys aren't always fully closing it with the screws here. And so what we did is we created a magnet housing. So you have magnets on the top of the window here where it just drops down and it's going to close. We do recommend to finish it out and screw these all in just to get your environmental ratings. A key benefit too of this is the magnets can actually hold it against the panel, so it's not going to close on top of your fingers by any means. So it's just kind of a little bit easier to use, making sure these are fully closed, protecting maybe your RJ45, your outlet, or whatever else is inside our Grace Port, making sure nothing gets in there and it's doing the job that you wanted it to do.
Yeah, that's in addition to the normal latch that we have. So there's times when people are walking away and they're not securely latching these, which generally if it's hanging open in the environments, if they're doing that, it's not too bad. But there are some where that dust and that corrosive environment gets in there and then your data transfer isn't going to be as efficient and you're going to start noticing some issues. So in that case, we've had this ability where we can just seal that and make sure that environment stays outside of the Grace Port, so you don't get any steel flakes inside your Ethernet port or anything like that. So
yeah, 100%. And one thing that kind of is new that you can see actually on this Grace Port is our USB-C. So right now it's in a duplex outlet. So you have a USB-A up top and then a USB-C on the bottom power. So two things with this, and you can kind of see just the USB-C version right here is you're actually allowed to plug in your laptop, get that powered up, your phone, maybe it's an iPad, whatever it is. Obviously, a lot of things you're working with are transitioning over to USB-C. So instead of needing a outlet, you can actually just do the USB-C power. So if you are looking to do just 24 volts DC in the panel, this is a great option for you, as you can just plug in for your USB-C there. As well as it can save you a little bit of money. You don't need any, like a transformer in the panel, things like that, as well as if you do want to convert from your 110 down to 24 volts, this is a great way to do so.
Yeah, the USB-C has been popular too. That was the feedback of as we're starting to see electrical equipment standardize on that USB-C charging component. So laptops that maintenance are using and even the iPhones. There are a couple places that have gone around. It's generally we see the USB-C used to eliminate outlets. If outlets are causing a problem, if people are plugging in extension cords or
vacuum cleaners, heaters,
there's
fans.
A lot. There's a lot. The conversations get real weird when you ask what you're trying to keep people from plugging in. But the USB-C, there's no data transfer on the charging component. So it's a safe way to allow people to plug in authorized equipment and power it without giving anyone free access to an outlet just because they can see it.
Yep, exactly. So one of the other new things that we unveiled at Automation Fair is the check volt. So a lot of you guys are probably pretty familiar with this, as we came out with the check volt actually at Automation Fair in Chicago. So it would have been 2022. It's been one of our most successful product launches to date.
The most success. It has been very well received in the industry. People are really starting to view this as common sense. The safety, the being able to troubleshoot from outside the cabinet and test from a safe space. But yeah, the most products, the quickest we've ever sold products is the check vault after launching it at Automation Fair.
Yeah, and for those that have maybe never seen the check vault, you can kind of see some of the newer versions up here. But typically, our current version, or the one we released last year at Automation Fair, is a 3-phase application with a ground. So you got a port for each phase as well as a ground. So what it's used for, it's permanently installed into an electrical panel. It's a 30 mil knockout. You have 4 leads coming out the back of it, 1 for each phase, and then 1 for ground as well. So what this device does, it has 2 dual redundant LEDs on the outside for each phase and ground. So if power is present, those dual redundant LEDs are going to be flashing at you, letting you know you have power. When you hit the disconnect, those LEDs should be going off. If you do have a stuck blade or anything like that, the phase that is still connected will light up, as well as the ground. And then the big thing here is between those redundant LEDs, you actually have a port to plug in your meter where you can test for absence of voltage. And we did have a webinar recently with Terry Becker going over the new NFPA 70E changes. So definitely look that one up if you want to know how the check vault helps you further comply with NFPA 70E for establishing a safe working condition.
That's pretty much it. It got so popular. We have some variants up here. So one of the more exciting ones, and definitely the most sought after, is the 2000 volt version.
Yep.
We have a DC available version. It's going to be this one up here in the picture. But that was developed specifically for EV and solar industries. I know solar applications, we have combiner boxes where at the end of the array there's 1500 volts DC, and they didn't want to have to buy special equipment to test absence of voltage on that, and they wanted to do it from outside, so they didn't have to suit up and safety PPE get. So we did that one. You want to kind of explain how we accomplish being able to use your stand meter and test absence of voltage on that?
Yeah, 100%. So like Nick was mentioning, this is very designed for solar as well as EV applications. But with our current check vault device, it has a 164 kilo ohm resistor in it. So it's going to take let's say it's 480, which is pretty typical in the States. It's going to bring that down to about 1.6 or so milliamps. So what we did with the 2 kV version is we have a 10-to-1 voltage divider. So what that's actually going to do is if you have 2000 volts DC, it's going to bring it down to, I believe, around 200 volts DC, what you're going to be reading at. So it will allow any standard meter to basically work within that panel. So you don't need to do a special, meter that's adjusted for 2 kV or higher. You're good to go with the meter that you guys already have at the plant, or what you guys are already using. And it's able to do that with that 10-to-1 voltage divider.
Yeah, if you have an application, we get a lot of distributors on here. A lot of our distribution network watches these for updates. If you guys have an application like that, that was more sought after than our most popular product, which is the check vault. That is going to start being mass produced. Yep. So the OEMs and the industry standardizing on electrical safety is a really nice thing to see. But if you guys have applications that need to understand why people are making these decisions, what it really is making more efficient and safer, then we're happy to get in touch. But a lot of industry is starting to realize that a few $100s can make the difference between life and death doing a routine job.
Yep, 100%. And a couple of new versions also we have out there is a single phase version, which is what you see top left, as well just DC. So both of those are rated for 1000 volts AC DC. So obviously with the AC one, we're using AC there, and the DC is rated for 1000 volts DC and below. But again, it currently works with a 164 kilo ohm resistor to bring down the amps in that device, so it is fully touch safe as well. And typically when we do see end users implement the check vault, is the feedback that we hear is people are receiving a return on investment in just 2 or 3 lockout tagouts. And that is mainly because typically when a check vault is installed, since you're able to test for absence of voltage with that panel door closed, safety says, hey, since you can confirm absence of voltage with your meter at the point of work, you don't have to suit up in ambient PPE gear, which saves quite a bit of time. So a lot of that return on investment is coming from that time savings.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are just as customizable. These variants, I know, they standard come with 8-foot cables.
Yep.
I think they're making a 15-foot cable version back there now. So anything, the point is to do these safe, make them easy to use. So if there is a model of product that you see from us and you think with a little bit of effort that could be really good fit for us, let us know, because it's usually not too difficult for us to make these really well placed in different facilities.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the cooler things, in my opinion, that we released at Automation Fair is this guy that Nick is holding here.
Power Puck.
It's called the Power Puck. And Nick and I were talking before we jumped on here about the weather.
Yeah, it's like, what,
Cities.
10 degrees outside now?
It's like, yeah.
So the cold weather, everyone knows, especially innovations in predictive maintenance, batteries are never anyone's favorite part of any equipment. So we've been looking into this company, and we acquired Perpetua this spring. But what it does is it's a thermal energy harvester, which is really cool, which is probably one of the most new innovative things that we saw at Automation Fair, and it's really nice to have in our booth.
Yep.
But what that's going to do is you can place that power puck on a warm surface, and it's going to take that and generate electricity. Enough for field transmitters, wireless devices to replace batteries. Yep. It's not going to generate enough to replace a hard wire, any 24-volt power. But for, say, Emerson or Rosemont wireless transmitters, if you want to put those out there, especially if it's in a class 1, div 1 kind of location, any hazardous install, yep. These are going to fit right in, and you're going to be able to self-power without running electricity, without going out and replacing a battery every couple months. It definitely caught attention.
Oh, 100%. And I think one of the most common questions we get with it is, how much of a temperature differential do you need? And typically, if you can place your hand on a motor or pump and it's just warm to the touch, that should be plenty enough. But raw numbers, it's about 30 degrees Celsius is the temperature differential that you need from the surface of the motor or pump to the ambient air. And typically, these are very frequently installed in oil and gas applications where that is basically no problem to hit, is that temperature differential.
Yeah, if you got a warm surface and wireless transmitters, what we've been seeing, so generally the oil and gas has been the biggest user, the most established install base. But with using wireless transmitters, they generally have to bring down the data transfer rate that they do. And most of them are doing it once an hour. And you hear a lot of manufacturers suggest, like even ours, we suggest once an hour just to save some battery life and give it 5-10 years. But the operators and the machine users want every minute, every few
yep.
seconds if they can. So the Perpetua Power Puck is going to be able to support that. So if you have a warm surface, there is no battery to kill in this. As long as that temperature is there, there's power there, and we can perpetually, hence the name, perpetually power all these wireless devices. So Chevron using like a steam pipe is a way to power multiple of them. So when you look at the cost analysis of an install, if you take out the need to run power to a location, especially if it's hazardous, if you take out the need to go replace batteries every year or two, especially if it's hazardous or in an extreme height or anything like that, we can start knocking off near $10,000 of an install of a wireless transmitter, and you'll never have to go back and maintain a battery.
Yeah, the big thing here is typically a lot of these oil and gas applications too with these transmitters is they're hazardous locations, and it costs quite a bit of money to change a battery. So it's something as simple as a battery change. It can take quite a bit of time getting a work order, getting the proper permits to go change that battery to enter that hazardous location. So basically this prevents people having to go into a dangerous situation and just to change a battery. This allows, like Nick said, basically to power your transmitter almost indefinitely or for the life of the transmitter. And
20 years established life is what we're getting out of these. So 20 years of not replacing a battery is a lot of cost savings, a lot of labor savings, and a lot of peace of mind, especially if you're able to get the data you want.
Yeah, and recently I had a conversation with a end user about a few weeks ago or about a month ago. They actually had a temperature of 800 degrees Fahrenheit to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So they were asking like, hey, that's pretty toasty. How can we make this work? Or what's the top range of temperature this thing works with? So what we can do is we actually have an extender where it's like a pipe mount where it's a U-shaped bar, and you can actually stick this at the end of that where it takes it off the surface a bit to reduce that temperature to make sure it's still going to work and going to get plenty of temperature differential if it's that high heat for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm excited to see where we're going to go with this. The first stop, what we're doing is integrating this in with our vibration equipment. So we do condition monitoring, predictive maintenance, and this is what these devices look like. So the power puck is intrinsically safe. It is hazardous location install safe. We're bringing that capability into our vibration system as well. So Grace Sense, starting next year, will be able to go hazardous location, class 1, div 1, intrinsically safe. A lot of the updates, again, we have the power puck integrated in with the vibration node. So what that enables you to do is take your power puck with the vibration node built into it, place it on a warm motor where you're going to be monitoring vibration, and that will now be powered perpetually. Yep. You'll be able to gather vibration data however often you want it, never have to go back, wire any power, change a battery.
Yeah, and the big thing here is a lot of people have this many meetings or conversations about should we go wired or wireless for a lot of these predictive maintenance monitoring systems. And they ask, obviously with wired, you get supplied power. You don't really have to worry about it. You can take frequent update rates, etc. But it typically can maybe cost a little bit more, harder to install, wire, figure all that out really. And then wireless, it's really nice and conducive to just be able to place something on a motor or a pump, especially if it's a tough location. But the problem here is typically batteries don't do super hot in colder weather, and you have to change out battery and you have a less frequent update rate. So with our two new versions, the VBT without the power puck and then the VBT with the power puck integrated into it, is that the one with the power puck, you actually have a wireless and batteryless system.
Mm-hmm. And we extended the range of it so it can communicate further. And there's a lot of engineering focus in the Grace Sense right now. And that is one of the things that we noticed at Automation Fair, is that for new innovations and for pushing the envelope, we're really starting to stand out. And I think the next couple product updates we go over are really going to highlight that. But Grace Sense is getting a lot of focus, a lot of traction right now, and it's updating a lot. So the Grace Sense, this one, I think we can move on to the defect classification and talk about it. This is new this quarter, the Grace. So what we're able to do, we've been focusing on the delivering usable, actionable data to end users. So in our conversations over the past few years, we found a lot of these vibration systems, like asset condition monitoring, have been installed and pretty much gone derelict inside of a lot of facilities. There's many that have a couple years that haven't been accessed. There's equipment that sits out there. And when we ask about it, why they're not using that one or ours or any at that point, it's because they don't know what to do with the data. They got so many alarms that didn't matter, or alarms that they already knew were going to alarm, but an alarm doesn't tell you anything other than, it's shaking, and I could feel that when I walked by.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, so they get really frustrated. So we are trying to give data so that if it alarms, why, what can fix it, or what could possibly be erroneous about that. So if a crane's going overhead and you're getting subsynchronous noise, or so we want a way to be able to deliver that to an end user without you having to hire a system integrator or a vibration expert to come in and analyze that for you. So we're going to analyze the shaft speed, we're going to analyze the rotation, and we're going to be able to tell you with a percentage accuracy what the actual issue is. So if there's a cocked bearing and it's starting to degrade your equipment, it's going to tell you that. It's going to give you a percentage of likeliness that is the actual issue that you're seeing, and walk you through how to go about fixing that. If you don't believe that, if you think that there's more data and that you can coerce that into being a better fitting response, we have an AI layer on top of that now. So the idea here is that you can interrogate the data that you're getting, and you can add in your real life facility information, past troubleshooting, anything that's going on in the area, any manuals or logs, maintenance logs on the equipment. You can load into this AI system and ask it questions, prompt it, and it'll walk side by side with you. It'll handhold the troubleshooting process, not only just with interpreting data, but with just the general industrial knowledge. So it'll pick through the manual. It'll tell you what you need to start repairing it, how long it might take, and what you're going to check along the way.
Yeah.
And then it comes back and it gives you a root cause analysis form at the end.
Yeah,
So
like Nick was saying too, with the defect classification, it'll tell you if you have a bearing problem, it's 70% likely that this is your issue. And here's the 30% why we're not 100% positive here. And it'll tell you what data you need to basically get to make it 100% positive. So then, like Nick was saying, you can throw that into the Foreman XAI and ask, hey, how do I run these tests? Or how do I get this data? And it can actually reference the documents to your specific motor or pump that on how to do it and what to do, basically. Because I mean, honestly, not everybody's a vibration expert. They're not a dime a dozen by any means, and they definitely cost a pretty penny to have one on staff. So you don't want to waste any time to be able to fix that piece of equipment, especially with the supply chain nowadays. You never know how long something's going to take. So the faster that you can figure out the problem and have an idea of like, hey, my motor is potentially going bad in a certain amount of weeks or months, et cetera, or pump, being able to order something weeks in advance is going to help you massively with the supply chain issue.
Yeah, we went out here locally. Ben and I actually went to our local recycling facility, and we were talking about GraySense, which they are now getting installed. And they had their VFDs. One of the things they wanted to see was the current draw on it, because they knew if something's messed up downstream, that one of the earliest indicators is that there's more current going to be drawn through that VFD. They weren't monitoring it, and one of their VFDs burned up, and they had to go and order one, but because of supply chain, they couldn't get the standard. They couldn't get the Rockwell, the Allen Bradley VFD. Yep. So now they have a bit of a variety because 8 weeks was too long to wait to get their equipment back up and running. So the insight, that's what helped them realize, is that if you get a little earlier indication, it smooths over a lot of those processes. You're not overnight shipping anything. You're not taking a $20,000 project and making it a $35,000 project.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice to be able to see the early indication, make a plan, and stop rushing to respond to things.
100%.
And then this ability to interrogate it if you're unsure, or if you don't know if you got misalignment and you don't know how to go correct for misalignment, then you can ask it and it will give you step by step and walk through.
Yep.
The background on the AI, because we're a company that started with gray sports, which is great. And I love this new stuff, the energy harvesting, the AI, where we're going for industrial safety and making things safer, smarter, and more productive, is very fun and exciting. But the AI, there's a few different companies right now that have ideas of what that's going to really do for them. But if you have, say, a catalog or this system full of all your asset information, any troubleshooting, any manuals, procedure operations, you can have your operators go in, have that information loaded in there, and instead of them control F, tab, looking for the step, it will go do that for them, and very fast automated process, get them back that usable information. And if they need to send that off and get it confirmed, the process of getting it's faster, the process of continuing operations speeds up. So the AI is very good. We went out to San Francisco this spring.
It was like summer or spring or something.
Yeah, earlier in the year. And we went to Hackathon, or Hack AI-thon this year. And the idea there is that you have to create a consumer-facing AI platform that's useful. And our team went out there for 48 hours and started development of this. And the idea was that it's just a way to interrogate the data, is that people didn't know what that banded Fourier analysis with this section elevated, what that means. Yep. So after 48 hours, they had this better than our company could do. Yep. So it can go in there. There's 5 AI that live in the system. And between the way they communicate, like one of them's a librarian and will only reference the manuals that you put in there. One of them's the foreman that you interact with, the one that you see. But it's very cleverly built to keep out the crazy responses, to make sure that it's referencing industrial safety, your specific equipment, and expediting your procedures. But the more people get into this and start using it, it's really exciting to see how effective it really is. But you can see it here, pulling up manuals so you don't have to search. It gives you step-by-step instructions, references the pages. There's a lot. The ability to ask questions without calling the OEM back or without getting a field service engineer out is huge. The skilled labor shortage, the ability to hire somebody and train them on your equipment and have them become an expert is expedited with this, because you start understanding what the vibration means, what this means, and it relates it to a real life data point. So we are eliminating the useless data that gets sent out. The alarms, you can adjust them. You'll see here, it gives you recommended alarmings like 0.3, 0.09. If you're getting needless alarms, we'll walk you through. It's really not that hard, but you can fix that so that you're not getting alerts sent out for no reason. This is the most plug and play I've ever seen. And Ben and I were joking yesterday because the Perpetua takes the plug out. So if you can just pop down the sensor and it's powered and transmitting, all you have to do is go assign it.
Yep. And I think a big thing to note too that Nick was mentioning is with the skilled labor shortage is when you finally do, let's say, get a new employee on, or you're able to take some existing employees and teach them how to use this system, that almost makes them a vibration expert in-house. So it's incredibly important to be able to educate your current employees on how to do some separate things within, maintenance for your motors, your pumps, or whatever other parts of your plant that you have.
What about when Mike leaves?
Exactly.
You got one guy that's an expert on that machine. The compressor went down or chiller, and it's like he's either on vacation or he left. As long as you're using this system, it remembers all that history, all that maintenance that's been done, what caused it in the past, what could be causing it. It lives in your facility. So that loss of knowledge when people leave, because I've always joked that engineers never retire. You become consultants or you start up your own firm, consulting, because there's too much information in your head. You can't get it out.
You can't.
And that's dangerous to companies.
Yeah.
If you're running an organization and your 25-year employee leaves, that is a lot of information that just left your building.
Yep.
And with this, it can stay there. And a 25-day guy can troubleshoot with the same effectiveness because 25 years of experience already lives in that.
And I think it's important just with within our infrastructure now with across the globe, like turnover is becoming more and more frequent where people aren't staying for 25 years or 20 years. It's more common for somebody to stay for 5 years or 6 years. And with that, like obviously you're not going to get that same experience with that 20, 25 year guy. But now you have Foreman XAI, the defect classification that can help speed that process up, where all of that information and data stays at your company, even if an employee leaves. And the big thing there is one of the largest costs within turnover is re-educating or training employees. So this is helping, like Nick mentioned, speed that up to help you save thousands and thousands of dollars, because training employees is not cheap when somebody leaves at all. And it can be a long process. So this is just being able to cut that time in half or 90%, whatever it may be, but it's helping your employees get up and going a lot faster to understand the health of your equipment, whether it's pumps, motors, etc., chillers, anything like that. But one thing that you guys may be thinking of, hey, I actually have never heard of your Grace Sense system yet. So how in the heck does it work? So typically our system, so our VBT nodes, they're wireless nodes where you can just, like Nick mentioned, plop them on a motor or pump, whatever you're looking to measure vibration and temperature wise. The information, the data gets sent through Zigbee wirelessly to our gateways. Now you can set up a gateway in many different options, basically. Either have it send to the cloud, locally, it could be both through Wi-Fi, LTE, really however you want it to be sent and wherever you want it to be sent, essentially. And think of the gateway as the brain, as the VBT nodes are getting information to the brain, and the brain is then pushing it out where it needs to be seen. So it can be seen on our maintenance hub, which is our cloud offering, where you can log in, access all your data, set alarms, etc. Or you can have it be pushed through API to your local SCADA system, and that can also be directly from the gateway as well.
Yeah, the data security is always top of people's minds when they talk about anything IIoT, anything sending data anywhere. A lot of people don't want information leaving their facility. And some people want to get started down an IIoT path, but have an IT-OT gap that they have to bridge there somehow. What we've found generally in there is if you have an IT-OT hurdle to get over and you need to prove the system first, our cellular service is the way to go there. So you can do local, you can do your PLC direct to the Rockwell, whatever you have, Micrologic, anything. You can go cellular, and that leaves it on its own separate system. So you're not getting into the Wi-Fi, you're not trying to intermingle those things. And that's been a good introduction start to our equipment, to our software. Where you're going to get a lot of the extra data from GraySense, a lot of the extra value is from that maintenance hub, the online feature. So that the defect classification lives in the maintenance hub. A lot of that, the AI on top of it will be there. The way to interrogate and question that data is going to be our online. But if you want on-premise only, don't send information anywhere, we can configure that as well, and then provide all that data straight into your DCS or your CMMS. However, we have an API with Fix. So if you're using Fix, it's literally plug and play. Anything Rockwell, we have an add-on profile, so you can. That's again plug and play. And then the APIs for majority of others. I think by end of quarter one, there shouldn't be too much issue connecting into any one of those systems. So if there's information that you guys are interested on beyond that, we're more than happy to get connected. We have starter kits that can go out. We have a lot of different initiatives that are getting traction in these. So if you're looking for like the class 1, div 1, IIoT, we can start that conversation. So we're ready to go for you. But we're at the point where a lot of our new innovations are grabbing a lot of attention, and they get picked up real quick. So it's really fun to see where these things are taking off and where they're going to go. Are there any other applications that we were discussing? I think the digital twins people were doing, ways to monitor their equipment and all that. And we have the ability to put in information into any system like that. If you're trying to adjust where you might want to run, change your procedure around, add a machine. Where I came from, we had a surface mount line where we could go in a digital twin type of setup and adjust what machines are where. If we wanted to get another pick and place machine, what that would do down the line, where the bottlenecks would go, all that. But one of the key things, and it comes up a lot with the robotic cells, is monitoring the current draw during all those cells as they're drawing, especially welding ones, because they all fire at individual points. So things like, we don't have a picture of it up, but our hotspot monitor for continuously monitoring that are, if you're innovating that way, if you're really going IIoT, the ability to put in the most accurate real-time data is essential, because otherwise you're just guessing. You're just taking a hypothesis without real data. And but we can take that and pipe it into the same way, but you get continuous temperature monitoring of your critical connections, the bus connections, your power distribution equipment. And you can know if you're going to put this in there, what that might look like. And then when you make that change, you'll see real time. You don't have to wait 3 months for someone to come out and do a thermography and tell you, hey, this might not be the safest setup. Or
100%.
Yeah.
And I think a big thing to note with our GraySense system, besides providing all the data that it's going to provide you, is one really unique thing is you can actually implement third-party nodes into our system. So if you're looking to measure flow or
current is one of the big ones.
Current, you can actually put that into, and we have a node that will send it to our gateway, so all the information can live in one spot versus logging into here, and here to go visualize and see what everything's reading. It can actually just integrate it all into one place, so it's much easier to view. You can access on your laptop if you use the maintenance hub, etc. Very easy to access the information that you're looking to measure. Yeah,
I think we talked about that recently. We had like a non-woven manufacturer that was doing a lot of temperature just because they're having a lot of thermal incidents. There is. We don't restrict GraySense to stuff that we manufacture. If there is the ability to gather more data and get more use out of our system, we allow you to bring that in. So RTDs, thermocouples are popular, the current draw sensors. Definitely anything that, if you have an idea of what will help you identify an issue earlier, that's what we're here for. We've been doing it for 30 years, trying to make you guys more efficient. So feel free to reach out. We're definitely opening up the door of where we can go with all this predictive maintenance stuff. So it's real exciting to see where industry's going and where we can really help out. But that lack of skilled labor, the quick turnover, like you were saying, are the highlights. You don't need to send someone through a training course. You don't need to take 3 years to get someone understanding how to use your system. I'm very proud of the GraySense, because in the same day you receive it, you can start gathering data. it's been filtering through, showing you a little bit of the setup. But if you are even curious about whether this is a good fit, we can get on site and show you how quick you can start gathering data. And generally, it's very well received. I mean, we put a lot of quality into our products, and our employees are very proud of them. They understand what they're doing and the impact they have. And we very proudly stand behind a lot of these products. And it's very interesting to see reactions when they get on site and how well received they are.
Yeah, 100%. So if there's anything that we mentioned today with the new innovations, the Power Puck, the new check volts, the new Grace Sense line, and the Foreman XAI, the defect classification, I think Nick is going to put up a poll here in a second. Feel free to hit that yes button and say, hey, I would want a conversation with the business development team to potentially look at a demo, or just further actually speak more directly about the application that you have at your plant to see how it could integrate either with your lockout tagout procedure, whether it's your predictive maintenance, what you're looking into, or et cetera. We'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you and get the information and resources in front of you that you need.
Mm-hmm. I imagine a lot of people are going to reach out about the Power Puck. So with this guy, where it stands right now, it is integratable with those Emerson Rosemont wireless heart transmitters. If you're using those, 100% look into this. A couple batteries is all that this is going to cost, 2 or 3. The time to replace those is probably going to make that ROI on 2 batteries. But that is, I mean, after Automation Fair, this was ridiculous, the amount of people it brought into our booth and the excitement it got.
Yep.
By Q2, we should have adapters so that we can connect to a variety of field transmitters. If there's anything that you're interested in, we've had companies already start conversations about partnering and using that.
Yep.
So if that jumps out to you at all, feel free to reach out.
And I think another important note with the Power Puck is people often ask, like, hey, what happens when that temperature differential goes away? Well, the Power Puck has a battery within it. So if that temperature differential isn't enough or goes away, that battery will automatically kick in to power that wireless heart transmitter. Now, when that temperature differential comes back, it'll kick back on the energy harvesting to power the transmitter.
Yeah, anyone interested, if you're familiar with those transmitters, they have a molded battery in the middle of them. So what we do is we take the Power Puck, warm surface, you'll get a cable, run it over, and then there's another piece that'll replace that molded battery. Inside of that molded piece, we have our own lithium-ion battery. Yep. So that's going to allow you on a cold startup, or if any maintenance routine, you're still going to have power so that you can get your data sent. A lot of them, like steam trap monitoring, if there's no temperature, then there's nothing to monitor. So it depends on the application, what you think you're looking for. If you guys have any questions that you want to address right now, feel free to send those in, because we'll have some time to hit those. But if there's anything that takes a little more research, we're happy to get into it. But yeah, the ability to put down a warm surface and create electricity is very exciting.
Yeah, 100%. So,
and it can work off a cold too.
Yep.
Yeah, you can turn around the components on the inside. We don't manufacture them that way yet, but yeah, you can take a cold surface and that differential and heat will still work.
Yep.
Be a good idea for the parking lot today.
Oh my God. Yeah, so like Nick said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'd be happy to start going over those. If you have any questions about the new check volts, maybe a specific question with your application, whether it's with the Power Puck, the MagView housing, or the Grace Sense line with the new innovations coming out with that, with the defect classification, the Foreman XAI.
Yeah, we were walking around. We had a chance to talk to a lot of the AI teams at Automation Fair, and there are some interesting things going on out there. But we really believe that ours is leading the industry with the development that we've done, the talent acquisition that we've been lucky enough to have here, and the resources that we're being able to put into this. It's a very exciting and fast developing pace. Yep. And that was a lot of the feedback we got, was that as far as new innovations at a big show like that, we stood out, and we plan to continue standing out, and we plan to continue coming up with varieties of these products and ways to make a lot of things more useful for you guys. So
yeah. And I thought something I wanted to note as well about kind of the defect classification and the Foreman XAI is, Nick and I were talking about this yesterday, is we've had some end users let us know, is like, hey, we actually started getting some different systems or different VFDs or parts, et cetera, because the lead times from one company or versus another is so much faster. So there's a couple challenges with that. Is obviously it's nice to keep one entire system because then your staff is trained on how to basically maintain that motor, that pump.
Oh yeah,
whatever
no
it
one's
may be.
stocking a 200 horsepower motor.
Yeah.
No one's got one of the. I mean, someone might. Let me know if you do. But most people aren't going to have that and it's to go swap it out.
Yep.
So the idea to be able to get that in place before it's needed is it, and that's the difference between reacting and predicting. So
And you're gonna have like a conversation of, hey, should we wait the 4 additional weeks to get the same part we've been using, or should we get the part that maybe can get here a little faster? Well, the thing that can be super beneficial with Forminex AI is you can just upload that documentation of that new part into the AI where it can tell you, hey, this is how you actually maintain this motor or this pump or whatever it is versus the other motors. So you can have different documentation for each. So it's, again, not as big of a training or learning curve with this Forminex AI.
yeah, in my time as an application engineer, I can't tell you how many times. Let's see, something wasn't plugged in. There was a piece of plastic over the battery connection. But it says those simple things. And we've spent hours troubleshooting something where a piece of plastic was covering a battery connection. And the nice thing about AI is that it doesn't gloss over that. It's going to say, hey, make sure you check this, make sure you have power, make sure, do the stupid things and don't just assume that they were done. And that, you laugh, it's very helpful 100%. Sometimes because we spent hours on the phone with very upset customers and they call back later going, it wasn't plugged into the wall. Yep. So it's helpful because you just don't miss things. So it's nice, even if you think that you're the pro on that, there's a chance that whatever's happening is something that you just gloss over because this should never be the case, or it should, I shouldn't ever have to worry about that. But you check it. You check it because you do your job right and you make sure that it's not going to happen in the future. So it's very helpful, especially if you don't have that expertise and knowing. 100%. If you've never wasted 3 hours finding out a plug isn't plugged in.
And I think that's the typical thing too, because again, not everybody has a vibration expert or someone that might be super used to working with these systems where the AI can give you those steps. So for somebody new to this system or vibration monitoring or temperature monitoring, it will tell you like, hey, this is what you do. And that provides a lot more comfort because typically when you're having some vibration or temperature issues, people, can get a little nervous of what the problem is because obviously they don't want anything shutting down production. So things can easily be rushed, especially if you don't have a lot of experience there. So having that AI tell you, hey, these are the steps to take can really increase the comfort level and make sure things aren't missed.
All right. I don't know if we have any questions coming in, but as far as the defect classification and the ease of use on that, our system's going to help you with placement. We don't require a system integrator generally to show up. The installation of these parts, unless you're running power to them, if you want the battery powered one, but you want more often or a higher frequency of data transfer, we can hardwire power to these types of nodes. That's not an issue. We're correcting that with the Perpetua style so that you don't have to hardwire anything as long as you have a warm surface. But we get out of these ones, we can get 5 years of battery life. Out of the new style, we can get 10 years of battery life. Again, that's at the once per hour data sample rate. We have different frequencies available. If you need to get more insight or if, more detail, earlier view into a problem, we can upgrade to a more powerful or higher frequency vibration node. But generally, it's just, we'll send you over some nodes. You'll walk around and install them. The software recommends where to place them if you're unsure on that even. We'll send out one of our team if you want to help watch over the installation, and then walk through Maintenance Hub. But generally, once it's in place, you just go through. It takes about 10 minutes of assigning nodes on a starter kit. Yeah. And then you're up and running. On a bigger system, it's just a few more minutes of putting in nodes, but then data's coming in.
100%.
Yeah, you're not having to hire someone to come in. You're not having to wait 3 months to get something useful out of it and then find out that if you would have known that 3 months ago, it would have been useful. But people are frustrated with the current state of this vibration monitoring stuff. So I think we're really starting to push ourselves away from the crowd and deliver a lot of valuable, actionable data. Hey, Nick, has any questions rolled in yet? Is anyone bugging us on?
Yeah, just one on the power puck. Can the Perpetua power puck power more than one wireless transmitter?
Yes, it can. So that's going to be largely dependent on the temperature differential. So I think the record we have so far with a larger temperature differential is being able to power 3 wireless HART transmitters at once. So it really just depends on that temperature differential on how much you have.
Yeah,
The more you have, the more it'll be able.
A warm surface will make it work. Like the one with our vibration node in it doesn't require the 30-degree differential, just because the warmth of usually warm to the touch provides enough for our vibration node to wake up, check it, and go back to sleep. The more warmth you get, the more electricity it creates until you melt it. So, and that's actually the only failures that these have seen in the field have been melted from applications where something went wrong outside of this device. But if
I believe that's like not until you get like over 400 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, but we have standoffs. We have those pipe mounts. The idea is that these are going on hot locations and they're intended to do that. But yeah, a steam pipe, you get multiple sensors out of. If they're clustered, we have options of cables up to 100 feet, 100 meters. At some point, it becomes moot because not running power and running 100 feet of cable is... but if you got a cluster of transmitters and a warm enough surface, then absolutely we can power more than one off of that. I can get you a very interesting looking mathematic formula that'll tell you exactly what you'll get out of there, but I don't remember it at this time.
Any other questions, Nick?
So how often can you transmit a full waveform and at what file size?
So with these, all the processing happens in this vibration node. We are edge processor. We don't send raw data. So it depends. If you're using a battery powered one, I mean, you can send it as often as you want. If you're using a battery powered one, what I've found is generally if you're trying to do it minute by minute, you're only going to get a few months out of it. If you're trying to do like 5-10 minutes, you'll get maybe a year. With the Perpetua, there's no battery to kill. So as long as it's a warm surface, you can send it constantly.
Yeah, when we've seen the power puck get involved within wireless HART transmitters, you can actually send data every second.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, there's no data transfer rate that this can't support with a warm surface. This little one behind Ben here is our class 1 div 1, the hazardous location battery powered one. That one is going to get you 10 years at the once per hour data sample. But if you need to increase that, that's why we have that longer battery life. The way it works is that these wake up. They do a vibration analysis, they analyze that, and they send off the banded Fourier analysis to the gateway and then into wherever you're sending it. Then it goes back to sleep. So our firmware engineers are making these wake up faster, go back to sleep faster, and perform their jobs more efficiently, just like we're allowing you to do. But every time we do that, these things last longer and longer. So every fraction of a second we take from this thing waking up makes it last longer. Yep. So with the battery power, as long as you kind of balance those out, if you want to increase your data transfer, then use a better battery. But if that's any sort of concern and you have a warm surface available, this is a no-brainer.
Yep, 100%. Any other questions?
Are your vibration sensors triaxial?
Yes.
Yes, they are.
If anyone can't hear Nick, he asked if the vibration sensors were triaxial, and they are. We do use triaxial accelerometers. You can use more than one. If you want to dive into more detailed, you can place one on top, one on the side of the motor, and start to really dive in and see that. Generally, what we'll see with our starter kits, we'll send out 4 or 5 of these, depending on what you need. And people will place one on a motor, maybe one inboard, one out, and see what they're gathering. It generally doesn't take adding too many more, but there is occasionally an area where you can get a lot earlier insight just by adding an additional sensor there and really pulling out a specific part of that. So if there's a troubled location or things that slip a lot or have a lot of vibration in the background, there's different ways that we can play with it, and that's where our engineering team will get on with you. But generally, the little placement guides that are in the software are going to show you useful places to check for misalignment, any of the normal issues that we're going to catch.
Yep. All good. All right. Well, if you have any last questions, feel free to drop them now. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to us afterwards. So Nick and I just want to thank you guys for joining the New Innovations podcast or webinar. You probably call it either.
Yeah, definitely appreciate your guys' time. We know there's a lot to do. The holidays coming up. If there's any budget left and you guys are trying to spend it out, or a lot of our distribution networks here, if you got customers like that, check Volt. Ben and I have sold buckets of these check Volts just by asking if anyone wants them before end of the year, because there's budget and they make sense. And if you're gonna have a shutdown at the end of the year, let everyone go home. Yep. Have your skeleton crew go around. It's a 30 mil knockout, 4 wires. Install a few. It will save hours in your day. It'll make people safer. If you're not worried about complying with NFPA 70E, it'll at least make people safer and a little more comfortable in their day-to-day job. We find places that just don't have the ability, the funding, or the care to keep up to date with electrical safety with NFPA 70E, and they've survived. An electrician that's 50 years old is going to have some battle scars and some good stories to tell you, but it's needless. There's no need to risk hazard, no need to risk. It's your life. You want to go home at the end of the day. So if you have a budget, you want to try it out, let us know, but it's not over expensive to restrict using it, and it's such a common sense application.
Nick, we have one more question.
So one more question. Yes, are Grace sensors Bluetooth capable?
Not at this point, but if you have an interesting reason why you want that, send me an email. But no.
Zigbee, right?
Yeah, it's Zigbee communication to the gateway.
Yeah, actually that hasn't come up. No,
but you would be able to communicate like via maintenance hub directly to them to change either reading frequency or alarms, etc. Awesome.
All right.
Oh, one more.
Keep sending them in.
Also, our very own Chris Schneck is in the chat to answer some questions too.
Heck yeah, Chris.
Is there a list or address for the transcript recording of this after I missed most of the presentation?
Oh.
Well, I can take this one, guys.
All right.
I've done enough. Yes, there will be a on-demand version of this, and then you should be able to access the chat afterwards, and there will be a transcription. But we will be editing this, and we will send out an on-demand video along with some of the collateral of all the new products they discussed today.
Or we can have Ben call you and give you a personal one. Yeah, if there's no other questions, feel free to reach out after this. We have a lot of new installations going on with all this stuff. So if you guys have any questions over how it might best fit, feel free to reach out. Happy to have the conversation. Happy to get samples out or do more one-on-one trainings if there's a team that you want to get up to date on this. I know especially after Terry's webinar with the updates to NFPA 70E, there's a lot of people that just wanted to get a core group from their company together and go over updates and all that. So we have an expert network. We do consulting. We will for free call you and go over, help make sense of any questions you have about electrical safety. Whether or not you're using our stuff, the idea is to be safe. Use what makes most sense in your guys' facility. But yeah, feel free to reach out. Give Ben and us something to do over the holiday breaks coming up. But
awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to answer those as quickly as possible and get you the right resources.
Do you guys want to do one more question?
We can hang around, man. People want to keep asking.
Do GraceSense sensors have a storage capability to have seamless data readings?
So if it's not able to transmit to the gateway, et cetera, it will, for whatever reason, if it can't send it, it will send it the next time.
Yeah, like a store and forward, yeah.
So it'll keep that information, and then let's say you have a reading at once an hour. For whatever reason, wasn't able to send that reading at hour 1. It will send reading at hour 1 and hour 2 at hour 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you click the follow-up button, I can get you more details on that. Yeah. But it would make sense in my head that it's a first in, first out kind of deal. But if there's anything you're worried about connectivity-wise, we can look into and get you a for sure answer. But yeah, I'm sure there's a memory limit and all that. So, but it does it. It analyzes it here. It compiles it. So it's not sending raw data. There's not massive files going. So generally not a huge concern. All right, I think we're going to call it. Enjoy the 5 minutes you get before the next hour. Thanks for joining us. Have a safe day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.